Well, everyone, the fun has arrived. Now we get to design the attraction vehicle that we've been talking about. In this video, you will review vehicles for attracting great contacts. You will determine the best vehicle for your goals, and you'll start setting up your vehicle. After completing this video, you will know the best vehicle for attracting great contacts. You'll be able to set up the vehicle to get started right away, and you'll be able to develop a plan for managing your vehicle. So for the sake of this video, so that we're clear, the word vehicle means a tool or a platform used to generate interest in connecting to you. I want to turn your attention to the resource sheet that I provided for you with this video. It includes some links to some short audio podcasts that I voiced for my BizDev Boost series. And it's very on target with what we're talking about in this video. So check those out when you get a chance. Really good tips and some real stories and examples that'll help you. Now, the best way to attract people to you would be to offer them something, that almost every professional wants and appreciates: free publicity. It becomes your reason for connecting with others, and most importantly, it actually draws people to you. So we'll talk about how to utilize this for business development later, but for right now, just focus on the development of an amazing and significant vehicle platform for bringing people to you. Let's talk about some obvious options for vehicles, and I'm going to apply the energy and time investment weight next to them, okay? So if you're looking at this in the text version of this script, you'll see the weight next to them, but I'll explain that as we go. 1 to 3 is how I'm going to weight it, 3 being most, 1 being least. So a digital magazine, a lot of people are doing that these days. I actually started out doing the same thing. Very time and energy consumptive. Okay, so I weighted that as a 3. Video podcast, which is what I do now, that I weighted as a 2 because it's more time consumptive to bring in content from someone, like sending them a Q&A form or something like that, and then putting it into a reasonable format that you can actually post. So that digital magazine requires you to do a whole lot more, gathering of images and gathering of content and writing content. Video podcast, very minimal of the writing. All of it's just, video that you're, talking with someone. So it's like a video conversation. I weighted that as 2. Audio podcast is even less than that because you're really not having to be on camera. Honestly, if you're a woman and you put on makeup, you don't even have to do that. So a few images to go with it when you post and you're done. So I weighted that as 1. Newsletter or a blog. So that actually requires you to have a place to put it. So if you have a website, you can put it on that. If not, there are several platforms, including LinkedIn, that will provide you a place to put your newsletter, articles, or blog content. It is writing, so it does take some time, but honestly, you don't have to do much else other than jot up whatever you need to do and place it somewhere. And if you've already got a platform for placing it, then easy peasy. There you go. Writing a book. A lot of people are into doing that these days, and the way that they're getting around having to do all the work themselves is to invite co-authors to do chapters or write significant content that will be added to their book. So they're not having to spend all their time writing. It's still time consumptive, and I put that as a 3 because it's a big one. And it's not so much the writing of it as it is the editing of it, if you want it to be good. And then finding the way to get it published and then to sell it is really a challenge. Been there, done that, by the way. So I know what I'm speaking of. So here are some pros and cons with each one of these we've talked about. The digital magazine, online platforms make it easy for publishing and circulation, heavy on content development. You become a media source at this point, okay? People are going to view you more as a media source than they will probably as a business developer. Keep that in mind. Video podcast, my preference, as I mentioned. You can fill up your calendar with interviews very quickly, and they're easy to embed into YouTube videos straight from Zoom. Zoom will actually segment out your podcast. As part of it will be audio. You'll have your audio piece of that if you save it to your computer. Audio here, video there. You can literally, go to somewhere like Anchor FM and which for free, load in your audio and it becomes an audio podcast. And if you hit a certain check mark in a box, it gives you the verbal text version of that. So you could actually use that in text. So easy to embed YouTube videos straight from Zoom, because you could load it from Zoom to your computer once you save it there, and then from computer on up to YouTube. You can use your iPhone and use iMovie. That is an app on your iPhone that you can also publish it straight from there. So you publish this on your site and secure subscribers for it, okay? Audio podcast, easy and free. As I mentioned, online portals for loading audio. It really, there's a plethora of them out there. And I do believe Anchor FM actually puts it on Spotify, if I've got that right. So, it's already loading that in for you. And it's already organized according to what settings you put on Anchor FM. So your logo and all that should transfer over. Zoom interviews saved to your computer. As I said, separate audio from video so you can utilize just audio or both audio and video where you want. Newsletter or blog, one article or a single posting regularly posted would be what you probably want to shoot for. Easiest of all, but not nearly as engaging for relationship development. So if what you're after here, and this is what we're after, is that business development piece, relationship building connected to all of this leads you to that business development. So unless with a newsletter or blog, you're doing several interviews and plopping them into one posting, or getting quotes from certain people and putting them in a posting, then you're going to be wasting your internet real estate. That's basically what I'm saying. So remember, this is all about interviews, pulling interviews out so that you can get to know these people. Okay. Book, lots of work, but you can incorporate interviews or engage co-authors, as I've mentioned before. Not as useful for ongoing relationship development due to time constraints, but you can break up a book into a series of booklets and keep rolling with attracting new people to guest author. So, none of these are meant to be a one-off thing that you do. It needs to be kept up. So it needs to be regular. All right. This option is really as much about building your expertise and influencer status as developing a good vehicle for attraction. The book is what I'm talking about there. So remember, if our aim is business development consultancy, keep that in your sights when you start thinking about a vehicle for attracting people to you. What works best always is what's going to work well with your goals, your talents, and your personality. But remember, the more senses you can engage in relationship building, the more solid the returns. So if you can see and talk to someone as opposed to just jotting up an interview, you will likely have more opportunities to convey genuine interest and develop trust. It's more personal. If it hasn't clicked in yet, once again, let me say this. The vehicle is for you to interview guests, to bring people to you. It's your built-in invitation that becomes your attraction vehicle. Now, that said, what you want when deciding on your vehicle is to think about your time constraints and scheduling, but also consider the return on your investment of time, because you can find free resources to help you to do any of these options. Benefits range from building your brand to attracting attention from major partners, lots of advisory board opportunities and interviews that turn into business leads on the spot. Happens to me regularly. That didn't happen today. Think about what feels comfortable and natural for you, given your talents. You can always start with one vehicle and move to another later. I mentioned that. I didn't intend to start with a book, but that, if I go way back, like 10, 15 years, that probably did launch me. But it really officially started with an online digital magazine called The Introducer, and then evolved into Frontrunners Innovate. Think about starting with something that's easy and simple, and recruit a partner if that sounds like a smart idea for you. I recruited assistants. You may want to recruit a partner. Keep the workload purposeful, strategic, simple, and easy to do, because if you don't enjoy it and it's not easy to do, you're not going to do it. So you enjoy it, and you'll be more likely to be consistent. Now might be a good time to check in on some examples of people using their vehicles to attract great people to interview, and also great business opportunities. So I know a few, thought I'd share some with you. Marcus Ogden is a former NFL, National Football League, pro football player, who has his own podcast interviewing people with amazing stories. He has constructed it in a way to help him secure great motivational speaking opportunities, and his podcast has made it to the top of some popular podcasting sites. I have sent him several people to interview, so I know this. Lisa Jones is a co-founder of the Global Goodwill Ambassadors Organization, large organization that's wrapped all around the United Nations SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, and social impact. Produces a fully digital magazine and sells advertising on it. She uses it to spotlight her ambassadors around the world and also to bring contributors to her site. She accepts donations and to visit her online educational institute, which she has told me is one of her best ways of raising funds. Toya Numasiri is the founder of Nazaru LLC, and she is a former Walmart supply chain expert who works in business development for trade, particularly with Africa. She has a podcast and newsletter and plans major conferences. All of that keeps her in an influencer spot. Her guests are high-level types, and her activity is circular, with each activity, each vehicle feeding the next. Okay? I think you kind of get the idea here. So here's the next steps for you. Decide on your vehicle. Research the tools for your vehicle, whether that be a free podcast or newsletter platform, so on. Set up a production calendar. Don't let that scare you. You can create that inside your Gmail as a separate calendar if you want. You want this to be something that will help you keep consistent and regular. And after a while, you may not even need that, but it might be the first Monday of every month. This is what you do. Put a simple standard list of questions together that will help you get to know the interview guest and where they are headed with their work. Okay, put together a list of what assets you'll need from them so that they can provide those to you in advance. That's what I would recommend, is that when they engage with you, you get them secured for an interview, then you need to let them know what they need to send to you. So that will be site links, a bio, headshots, whatever it is you want to require. Consider where you will circulate these interviews and make sure that, that you have all of those accounts and mailing lists ready, okay, for that. So always remember to add your guests to the list when given permission to do so. And tag them with keywords so that you can pull them back up when you need to. If you add them to a special interview mailing list, great. But if not, tag them that way so that you can pull them up as interviewees when you want. It's all about tracking location, their business, work type, and so on at this point, okay? So backtrack just a moment when we were talking about making sure you had all your accounts ready so that when you got ready to circulate these interviews, everything's ready to go. My best circulation happens on LinkedIn, and so that requires me to keep my LinkedIn profile updated, that kind of thing, because if people are looking at who I'm interviewing, they're likely also looking at me, all right? We also circulate some of these on Twitter and Facebook, certainly on YouTube, our YouTube channel, that kind of thing. And we try to tag and curate these same interviews on YouTube, kind of the way that we do on our website, which kind of relates to maybe how you'd look for someone. Just a little note here, if you do a group of interviews within the same space or within a certain type of people, like for instance, I do an investor series where if I'm interviewing somebody that I feel like is a funder or has some connection to investments, impact investing or any other kind of investing, then I have a series of that I created on YouTube. YouTube loves series, okay? So they give a lot of attention to that. Just pay attention to that yourself when you're putting together your interviews, okay? So make sure that you inform your interviewees when they are published and get them to help circulate all of this within their networks. Now let's get started, and let's start by reviewing the key points. The vehicle is a platform for attracting contacts to you. Find a vehicle that feels comfortable for you, given your goals, your talents, and your personality. Now, make sure that you start with what's simple and not overwhelming, or you won't keep it going. Recruit a partner if you need one. The point of having the vehicle is that it becomes your reason for reaching great new contacts as well as attracting them. Most importantly, to attract them so that you're not really actually having to look too hard for people. Activate your vehicle by organizing operational guidelines and finding interviewees. And if you've not already done so, start now. Okay. So the next video is all about building out your attraction vehicle. I'll give you some specifics that fine-tune your efforts to set up for business development. See you in the next one.